workshop meeting to order this March 18th, 2025 at the Government Center, Town of Lake Placid. Everybody, please rise. We'll just have a quick prayer. To our gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for another glorious day in paradise, better known as Lake Placid, Florida. Please bless this council that the information they receive tonight will give them better insight on what we need to do for our great town. Please bless our troops and first responders around the world who are protecting our freedom. And in your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Holbrook,
Here.
Councilmember Hayes,
Here.
Councilmember Worley,
Here.
Councilmember Charles,
Here.
Councilmember Eberhardt.
Here.
Okay, the reason we're here is to talk about town fees and establishing a Lake Placid fee schedule.
Thank you, Mayor. So in the packet, there's a lot of different information. I did bring in some other articles that are on your desk area with additional quotes, just so you have that when you leave. And you're bundling this over before our next council meeting, so you have some of that documentation there. So we're in the process of looking at the recreational fees, because in 2017, the recreational park fees in the town were reduced. A comparison of the resolutions from 2012 and 2017 will reveal the specific changes that took place, but the reduction primarily affected park fees, and it resulted in a decrease to a fee of $50 for park usage. So presently, according to the old reservation form, the rental fee varies from 0 to 50, along with a $150 deposit. So some of this information is already outlined. I don't know if you had time to look at the packet. A lot of the information that is in here was also presented at the budget workshops that were previously held. So moving into the Government Center's policies related to rental fees, regulations, and pricings have evolved over time, and it's resulted in a lack of clear definitions, and it leaves room for subjective pricing. What I mean by that is that previously there were no set amounts, and so whenever it ended up in our town clerk's hands, there wasn't anything really established. You could charge anywhere between $0 to $50, but there was no methodology. There was no mechanism on how are we getting this? Do we have a fee structure? And that's ultimately what has brought this forward, is for some consistency so that we know what to charge, and then also to give you a true picture of what the cost is for us to be able to use this room. We most recently received a request from a nonprofit who uses the Government Center room, and they have asked us to even set up the room. And so we don't have designated staff for that. They're required to do all the setup and tear down themselves, but now we're being asked to do that, and this particular group has not been charged. They do not so they're basically getting it for 0 fee. In addition, we are asking that we develop the fee schedule for council consideration, but we would also like to be able to revise a few of our town codes to allow for some fee revisions to be made by resolution, and we've seen this done in some other municipalities. This approach enables all of the town fees to be consolidated into one location, except for the utilities and the sanitation rates and fees. They would remain specified in the town code. And then in the existing town code, some areas adopt fees by resolution, while others have the fees embedded directly within the code. Typically, municipalities and counties adopt the fee schedules by resolution, which is often reviewed, and the changes take place during the annual budget development, and that's ultimately our goal, is we would like to be able to do this every year, review it when we come into budget so that it can truly fall into the picture. Then we just have some of the attachments that are in here that go through our user fees, talks about the code for the recreational fees. I did want to point out for reservations, now this is just for, I'll say for the town clerk to be able to do the government center reservations, and then also for the Parks and Recreation for that to be done. Only for the reservations, that's just for the processing, for the staff to do that from, oh, I need to pull that up. Let me find that. Let me show it to you. Eva, you said we had this in a tab, right?
Which one?
The log the most recent log
Oh,
that,
that's in the P drive, I'm sorry, the one.
it's okay, it's okay. I
Yeah,
just
the
want to know,
P
so
drive
I
was
can,
just
I would
correct.
like to, I want to be able to show them what we've been working on.
Go to this PC.
Sorry, I should have grabbed my glasses.
Go to P, yeah. Council prep. And go to the 18th. And then there's the log, the reservation log.
Councilwoman Worley over here, throw me your glasses, thank you.
I'm hoping it opens.
So on the reservation log, Eva, if you can remember, when did you did it at the beginning of the year, correct?
Yeah, I started this one this year, we're just now starting to.
Oh,
do
here we go.
This way, with the new software, Laserfish, we're starting a logging process. So I went ahead and logged everything that has been reserved since the beginning of this year. This is just things for us, it's evolving to what columns we want, but gives you an overview of the number of reservations thus far.
Thank you, Eva. So she put this together, and it'll tell you over on the column G, it says what facility, so it gives you an idea. And to date, we have 43, it's really 43 reservations because there's one slot up here, just so I can explain it. And at that total, you will, oh, there it is, sorry. It is $775 is what we have collected so far since January. For the two to just process, staff only for these reservations is $1,679.15. So when you calculate what we've already collected, we're negative already, $904, and that is only for the staff to take and obtain the paperwork, to go through and make sure the list of everything that's required is on there.
And just to note that a couple of those have not been paid yet, because you have the Caladium Festival that we just got, so it gets logged, and that typically comes to the council for fee waiver. So there's a couple items that aren't paid yet, but if they were paid, that would be, but they still have to go through the processing.
Right, of waiving the fees and things of that nature, because it'll come up before council.
Can you go over that again? Those numbers that you just said, that it's costing staff how much, which, is that on this?
No, it's not. It's not on here.
Okay, that's where I'm like, I'm not seeing what you're talking about.
No, so for the clerk and then also for Harry to process the paperwork and then go through everything that has to be done, it's $1,679.15 if you take their,
How many hours? I mean, what are we,
it depends.
and it depends on what the reservation is for, right?
It could, but it's still, the same paperwork has to be completed and filled out. And then after you complete the paperwork, it takes about 30 minutes for Eva to do the process.
So that's the average. The
For
average is
one.
30 minutes to do the process from the beginning of receiving it, to processing it, getting it on the calendar, getting it approved, going through the whole process. So it's about a half hour per reservation. That's give and take. That's an average, because I have some that take longer, like the Caladium Festival has much more pieces to it. That has to go to different places, so.
Right, so
on
that
the
would be,
average-
that would vary if somebody just wants to use the room for a meeting, a garden club wants to use it for a meeting, or you want to rent out a whole park, or you know, have a lot of activity. I
Process
would
is
think it
still
would
the same.
vary.
The process is still the same. It still has to be received, has to be uploaded, has to be put onto the calendar and put the notations, and that the proper other staff has to be notified. So, I mean, I at one point had the steps to give you detail, but that, oh, no.
Like I say, it's the
It's
microphones.
not even on.
Yeah.
Turn it on.
So you're telling me if somebody just wants to use the community room for a meeting, it takes you 30 minutes to process
It's
that?
approximately, I gave you an overall. It's approximately 30 minutes if you take different, I'm just averaging.
Yeah.
take them all.
I'm,
So,
okay.
yes, it can take, maybe 20 minutes, but it's not going to take 5 minutes. It's going to take at least 20 minutes, 25 minutes for a short one, because I still have to receive it. They come from email, either they're emailed in or they're dropped off. have to
That's
go-
fine. You don't have to, I'm just asking
Yeah,
for,
So I'm
because
telling you-
I think where I'm going to end up in this workshop is different things should have different prices. Somebody who just wants to use the community room for a meeting is one thing. Somebody who wants to rent it for a shower and use the kitchen and use the other things, sure, that's going to be more work, that's going to be more cleanup. Somebody who wants staff to set up, that's another charge, right? So I think that you get kind of into an à la carte of what people want to use what and for. That's just my opening comments.
and I could just add for myself, because I do the processing, so I can tell if we start doing à la carte and having to pick and choose and it's not going to lessen the process. Because now, because at some point,
I see it another check mark on the application, right? You're going to use the kitchen, yep. You need us to set it up, yep. But,
And just keep in mind, though, that we don't have staff that are allotted for that right now. So anybody who takes on that responsibility, we're going to now add it to current staff, unless we're going to add to our staffing. So the amount came from between Eva and then Harry. Now, Harry's process is different because he has to now, Eva, do you want to go through that process?
I can. So for the community room, specifically for weekends, and usually it's weekends, he calls them prior, like a week or two prior to the event, so he has to know when his events are coming. That's done by, we notify him by the town calendar. He gets an email. I have it set up to remind staff when these events are happening. He calls them, he sets an appointment, the people come in, he shows them the AV equipment, he gives them the passcode, the code to get into the building. So that's his portion of the rental process. The others are, like when they do a pavilion, a sign gets put up, has to be put up when those are reserved. Alan Kiefer takes care of the Stewart Park Pavilion and Stewart Park and Devane Park. So if there's garbage or sanitation or any of that, that's who takes care of that. Police chief takes care of setting up any police services. We have event signs that the police chief now does. So those are just some of the things that get broken out. Road closures, if there are big events. So that's just to name a few, but for Harry, that's his portion of this building, is having the people come in, calling and making an appointment and coming in.
For the coordination, just for the government center. And because the word is out that we do not really charge, we are being bombarded now greatly with requests, because if you look at in the package, you'll see that there are most places that even charge nonprofits. There's not a zero amount for nonprofits. There's only a zero amount for government, and some of these there's nothing there for 501c3. I know that was one of the comments that had been made before, but now again, what's happening is that the town of Lake Placid has become an event center for free for 2,558 taxpayers that we have.
What's the bombardment right now looking for? Is it for just meeting space or
Baby
event?
showers,
Because
you do
again, I'm
everything.
going to keep saying meeting versus event versus park usage is kind of like three different things, right? So baby showers, and that's, I said, weddings and all that,
You
that's
get
an
everything.
event. That's an event.
Birthdays, we get
Should
everything.
be a rental. Clearly should be a rental.
That's for y'all to talk about. I'm backing up because that's for y'all to talk about. We're going to try to get these where it rounds out some. That's some of the things we're working on, and also for audio, just so everybody knows. Okay, so we'll keep moving. And again, like Eva said, that is only for the rentals right now. We were going to try to go backwards, but it's a little difficult to do that without a lot of documentation. Eva was doing a lot of the documentation prior.
And if you scroll over past that 501c3, because we're making sure we're getting that, see where it says paid, not-for-profit, employee, government? So you can look, the ones that say paid, and you can see which ones are nonprofit or government entities, that, whether it's the county or some of our other co-government agencies. So kind of broke it out there so we can track it better.
This is helpful. Can you send, at least I'd like a copy of it later?
Yes,
I think it's a good schedule.
I
Sure.
just got that completed.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, let me get rid of this one. I did have a correction here on this section from the introduction. Thank you, Councilwoman Charles. You asked about this question on the operating budget for parks. She asked if this amount was correct. It's at $597,945. And I asked Rachel before we were headed over here. So Rachel, do you want to comment on that? Would you mind, please?
428, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I looked at it, and the total parks is $1,080,443. But if you take out the capital, then it comes to $352,000.
Yeah, you have to take out the pickleball courts. You can't have 700,000 in there.
But you were close. Rachel, what's the total, please?
Wishful thinking.
It's like 216 for the parks and 186 for Lake June points, Lake June Park, something
What
like
did you
that.
say the total was?
The total?
The total that should be in there instead of 597?
$352,389.
Thank you.
Do you see that? The rest of the council, you see that where we're talking about? Yes, ma'am. So we'll correct that, but wanted to point that out.
We wish it was that high.
I know. Right? She said, "Are you sure about this?" Thank you. Do we need to look through the resolution? I'm navigating, but I want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to ask any questions or to look at anything. Are you working?
I have some comments on the ordinance wording. Whenever.
Where is that?
I don't think we have.
We don't have an ordinance.
Yeah, we don't have that yet in here. I was going to say, I don't think we have an example. But you do have some verbiage you'd like for us to use, Councilwoman Eberhardt?
The ordinance, which should be in your packet, where is that, page 4, I think, starts, page 5. I don't know if you want to,
That's code.
I don't want to divert the meeting from rates to ordinance restructuring, but
Okay.
maybe,
We can get together?
yeah.
Okay. So we have the two resolutions that are here. And then we also have some examples of fees that are being charged at other locations that we put in the packet. This was one of them. This was for Avon Park. So it just gives you some of the information so that you can see and compare what other municipalities are doing, what's happening around us. Excuse me. Councilwoman Charles, I think you make a good comment on, being able to put some of this in here with like the extra hours for setup the day before and things of that nature. But the additional hours, I think, is good for us to look at on the over 3 because we know that we have some of them that are wanting to get the room now on Friday. Some of the things that we're experiencing, just so that you understand, is if we have a really large group in there of 100, 120 people, it is so loud during working hours. So just some of the things for you to think about, because Eva has helped to fill me in, and she said that part of the discussions that took place about the building was that we wanted to be able to have a community space for people to use, and that was kind of the original intent with that. We're just saying to let you know that if it happens on a Friday, it's very crazy depending on what's happening. A lot of times we have to shut our doors to keep things closed because it is very loud, so during working hours, so we have them come in and they are able to set up if they come on a Friday and come in the back door. But it comes with other issues, if I could, just because they'll prop the door open. So now we're thinking about, well, what's coming in? I don't know if you know why they keep all the doors locked in the back or closed in the back. It's because they've had snakes come in the building. So those are some of the funnier things, but the bigger things are that now we have AC. That is, we're ACing outside. The door being propped open caused it to be broken before. When we had got a quote for it was $1,000. So those are just some of the things that they're there, but we're managing the property and the assets that we have. So these are some of the examples for you to see that we did do our due diligence. And so some of these are listed in here. Others that are not listed in here is that I did look at Hardy County at the Pioneer Park Picnic Shelter. They charge just for the picnic shelter, and it's literally just a shelter outside with a little table, a picnic table for $50. And it's plus tax. If they wanted to rent the pavilion, a pavilion is $250 plus tax with a $150 refundable deposit. So just some, give you ideas of what things are costing around here.
Can you go back to the comment that you made? If somebody rents it on Saturday and they want to come in on Friday to set up, do we charge them for Friday?
Eva?
Because that's like 2-day rental.
So if it's somebody's going to be paying, yes, we do charge them for the extra day. But oftentimes it is the nonprofits that are coming the day before. We have the ROTCs coming to have their ball from the high school, which is great. They just called me today, can we have it Friday?
But it's an
So they
event.
don't-
It's
they
an
don't-
event,
it's a-
not a
it's
meeting,
government
right?
thing, so they don't get charged.
Event.
It's an event. See, and you're going to hear me, my feeling is there's different pricing. There's event pricing clearly, right? That's because that's full utilization of the room, the carpet. You get 150 people or whatever, then yes, the kitchen, the ice maker, the counters, the cleanup. So an event, nobody can go out and rent a hall for under $100 for any type of a party. So clearly, event needs to have the proper pricing so that we're not losing money. I'm not certain I support that the government center should be an event venue, right? Because what's our goal, to make money or to have our facilities available for taxpayers or others? Whole different question, but I think events is one thing, I think park utilization is another, and then meeting space gets to be, call it a different one.
And just for pricing, because I'm just sharing my
Sure.
experience every day dealing with it. So we just had a reservation for Stewart Park. For the entire park, it's $50.
Yeah,
For
clearly, a deal.
For a 60th birthday party, for 50 people to take the entire park, because we only charge $50 for the entire Stewart Park. So that's just things to bring to your attention, that it's very easy, and that's what's happening now too, is, if you look around our surrounding areas, we are really not charging and comparable with our surrounding area at all. So just to point that out.
Comments? I do think too, because when you said events opposed to meetings, the only thing that I would say that runs in is, and I don't want to say organizations, because then I feel like if they're listening, then it's going to be like we're picking. So I don't want to say that, but we have some organizations or entities that have monthly or quarterly meetings, but it's not just a meeting. It's going to be called a meeting, but it's going to be a full-on decorating event with food, usage of, all of the technology, the kitchen,
It's an event then.
Yeah, and some of the things, even down to when we started digging through this, is think about the usage of the restroom. When you have 100 people in there and they're using the restroom, now they're flushing. Not only that, but they brought in the cases of toilet paper the other day. We're not even charging for toilet paper.
Yeah, I saw that.
I mean, so it's just, and it's just to say that,
Make them bring their own.
Yeah,
Mayor says you have
but we
one.
shouldn't be fooled by the purpose and the amenities in the facility they want to use. They can call it a wedding meeting if they want, but we know, this is an event. And I think, so I know you've got nonprofits that use it, but I also know that there's 2, if not 3 HOAs, right? Lake June Point, Oak Island, Water's Edge, once a year for 4, is there a 4th one?
Eagle Ridge, Eagle something.
But they're not a town, are they in the town limits?
Eagle's Nest is not.
Right, but 3 large ones are in the town limits. They once a year use it for their HOA meeting. No kitchen, no, even the sound stuff does, not, anyways, we couldn't get the IT to work out anyways, but, so to me, those are tax-paying residents that once a year wants to use a meeting room, and has always had. The old town hall all the time used the meeting room, and now they're gonna get charged $100? Really? So if the goal is to have people go elsewhere, because they'll probably find that, they'll probably find one of the buildings in town that they would allow. So that's where I'm saying is certain that residents, nonprofits, and I'm going to call it subdivisions, that minimally use it for meetings. Now, if any of those 3 wanted to have their Christmas party there, and we're going to use the kitchen, we're going to have it catered in and all that, that's an event. It's not a meeting.
Again, I just wanted to say too, I don't remember, but I'm very cautious about trying to compete with the businesses. Okay, I don't think we should be trying to compete and making lower prices than some of the other venues that depend on those spaces. I had called the Holiday Inn, and I should have written it down, but the number of people that can be at our facility is larger than theirs, and it's the first one on the list.
Yeah.
So just so you know, that's the only one I could think of to call. I don't know if which is, not a business, but they are in business, the Elks Club, all our other people in town that maybe can make some nonprofit revenue by leasing out their rooms. We shouldn't be competing with them. We should let them do that's just my opinion. The other thing was...
Can I make a comment to that,
Sure.
Councilwoman Worley? Only because as we're going through this process, we're hearing from people. And that was one of the concerns, because someone said, well, there's a meeting space at Beef O'Brady's. So now that takes away from from someone who's doing business in the town. The other one too, which I had no idea until I went down and have been looking at plants and doing everything for CRA. And Ibanez has a beautiful event area that I had no idea about. And he said, you keep having, he said it and said we could ask him that we take away from their business because we offer it at no charge. So we're also hurting our business owners, is the feedback that they're saying to us. So just to comment on that. I did want to point out one thing.
His is an event, right? Mm-hmm. That's you're going to hear me over and over. Event, meetings, park. 3 different type of venues that should have different type of fees.
Meeting space. On this page here, and again, I provided these to Eva, so she will put them in, but it's the venues page that Councilwoman Worley is speaking on. On the last, if you turn it over, the very last portion, and this is only because these comments come up to us, so I want to give that caveat. But the Lake Placid Women's Club has an upcoming event here at our site that they are charging $50 a person to get in for, but yet when you call and ask, they no longer hold events at their location because the cost of insurance is too much. So instead they're coming here, they're getting it, they're having a huge event. And how much did we charge, Eva?
We can't do that. We just can't do that. If they're having an event, and especially if they're charging vendors, which they are, for this event, and then we don't charge them, this is just not good business.
Correct.
Absolutely not good business.
Well, and I do think when you look at the cost, I mean, we got this building with pristine, but the equipment, I was trying to remember, and I didn't have time to look it up, the age of the building, the age of the equipment. But all of that equipment we have is aging, and we're going to have to replace it if we want the same quality. So it's very important. I have not seen very many people, even if they're just using the room, they do set up some refreshments. But most of these people do use the kitchen. Even when they have funerals here, whenever they have anything, they use the kitchen. Well, it's wonderful. And you got to go in there and you got to wash some dishes up and stuff like that. So, and then the other thing I wanted to revisit, which we did at one time, and we were told that we could not charge different rates for our recreation because it was state funded. So if the state funded, we were told at the time, if the state funded it, we couldn't differentiate between the state people in the town and the state people out of the town. But the library charges out of Highlands County, they charge them a fee. And these districts that have, I'm almost positive they had to use state money, and I'm not allowed to go to them. I'd have to pay a fee if I wasn't even allowed to go to them. So I'd like to revisit, because I think it's a great idea. If we can even, if it's a small amount, give our taxpayers a little bit of benefit if they even are going to be charged. Maybe just a small benefit. And then you got to worry about, well, is somebody from the town going to sponsor the whole thing? And then you say, oh, they get the, so I don't know. But I just wanted to bring up, maybe we should, just in general, find out if we could charge, because I know the library does it. I know the county's doing it. And I'm not so sure that that's still applicable.
I'll clarify on that one, just because we are proposing for a town resident versus a non-town resident, so that they get a discount. I don't know about the other, because anywhere I've seen, even if, anyways, I'll look on that other topic, but for the sake of this, we did put on here where you can see where there's town resident and non-resident, because we want to recognize those who live within our town limits.
Yeah, and I think it was only the parks that had state funding. But that was CDBG money. And I think, Ms. Cooper, you remember that, don't you, about the fees structure? No?
I don't know,
Okay.
those Sun and Lakes and the different benefit districts are offering different rates.
Yeah.
And I think even Bishop Park, so, I mean, that may be very outdated information.
Yeah, 'cause
Okay, well, and I think that's great. I am all for doing that. Let's give our people a little bit of something, you know. So I'm glad that's changed now.
it's actually 2 in here, just so you can see it. And yes, that's correct, Councilwoman Charles. In right under the venues, there's facility rentals that are listed there for you to see, and Bishop Park is in there, all of the other ones, and they charge. There's no government rate is no fee. Private, education, civic, religious, nonprofit rental rate. It says, well, this is Venus. Let me make sure I got the right one. HL Bishop is $100 damage deposit that's refundable, 99 people capacity. 0 to 50 people is a charge of $100. 51 plus is $130 plus tax. Plus $20 an hour plus tax if used between 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. So they even have additional rates and fees if it's going to be after hours.
So one of the things that may not be clear on these benchmarking reports is a lot of these organizations, not the organization, the entities, charge insurance. So Placid Lakes Community Center, we can rent. If you're a member, if you live out there, a resident, it's $0, but you have to provide event insurance, even if it's a meeting, which is typically $300. If you not a homeowner, you rent it for $100. I looked into this just for meetings, right? That if we, for our subdivision. So the kicker for a lot of people, and Charlotte, you hit on it, Eva, you hit on it, is we're attractive because they don't have to pay it by insurance. But that then puts a risk back on us as an entity for allowing free rental for people to come in. And we did have a couple times where people got injured. I think it was, well, even during the election, a lady tripped and, you know, so we do have, if you will, questions. Again, to me, is on town liability and how do you protect that? That's something that we're at risk, and if other entities, which all of them are requiring insurance.
So
That will
is a-
detour a lot of people.
Yeah, and so that also, as we get narrowing down these rules, so we do ask for insurance from the
Parks.
Palladium Festival, some venues, some of our not-profits will give us a, because they can get it through our PRM, or they can get it on their own. Clarity needs to happen. At what point do we require all events? So those are some of the questions we want to get answered from y'all, is to set some hard standards for us to say, okay, we ask for insurance for all events, or is there a caveat of what events we want them for? Or is it a birthday party at Stewart Park? You know, are we going to ask for insurance for that? So just to start narrowing down what type of venue qualifies that we need the insurance would be the first question. And
Would there be any downside of requiring insurance from everybody?
And it's the cost issue, like that Councilmember Charles said. So somebody that wants to have a birthday party for their 2-year-old down at the park, are we going to ask them to do insurance? Typically not. So, but some of your larger venues, you know, events that are going to have a lot of folks. So what is our threshold for that requirement and for not-for-profits? It's just been, and that's been the whole thing, is trying to get the standard set, how much are we going to charge, where we can clearly say this is what it is. It's been very obscured in the past, the 0 to 50, and some not-for-profits, and at one point, you know, we started getting a lot of churches in here, and we were charging the fee. And then the discussion had been, don't charge any not-for-profits. So we need guidance to start narrowing this down, because it is cost-effectively, you're not looking to make money, but we're not even.
We're not even breaking even.
We're not even breaking.
We're going in
even.
the hole.
We're going into the negative.
We're going in the negative.
Well, okay, just to throw it out there for discussion, my inclination would be to to require insurance of everyone, every event, meeting, whatever, over a certain threshold. And whether they're profit or nonprofit, because the risk is there even if you are a nonprofit.
So I was going to add to that depending on where they get it from, I've seen it anywhere between 150 to 300 at the lowest. I know this because when I got married, I had to purchase it. But also in other events that they required, especially whenever there's alcohol involved. That seems to be another area where when there's alcohol involved, then they require for you to have event.
Right, and you go back to this birthday party. That birthday party brings in bounce house or other types of things. That's back to liability on us if somebody's injured. So it's hard to just say, I'm going to rent a pavilion for a birthday party when a birthday party can get pretty broad on what it is. You had just said the word we would charge them for insurance, and I don't think you meant it. We would require.
I meant to
we
say
would require them to have insurance with us as on the policy as an additional insured.
I would venture to
Eva, it would be helpful, and you did a tremendous job of this benchmarking by calling every entity within 3,000 miles, I think, that offer this. So thank you for doing that.
We all did it. It was a team effort.
But I think on some of them, and I wouldn't do them all, is just touch base to see, do they require insurance? Like Bishop Park, somebody rents it over there for a birthday party. So it's like going back to some of the ones that are compatible to what we're trying to do and ask them, what's their policy? Because it's a rental fee, it's a deposit, which is very important. We learned that recently, right? And it's insurance. Those are kind of the three things to protect the town from not losing money, allowing our facilities to be used, but at the same time protecting us overall.
Like Eva was saying with the insurance, the town, they can get their own insurance, or they can get it through TULIP, which is PRM, so that they're kind of are covering. So they say, we'll offer insurance to whom you may, to, so that it won't be a burden on the town should something happen. But in some cases, there are going to be instances where they're not going to be insurable. With a small group, where they're just sitting here having a picnic, they're not going to insure them. So I don't know how they're going to find insurance on all the levels.
Well, I'm looking at it like, if it is a small event, let's say less than 25 people, and someone gets hurt, are they not going to come after us just because it was a small event? No, they're still going to come after us. So I'm thinking that any event needs insurance, regardless of how many people. Now, when they go to purchase the insurance is probably going to be less if there are less number of people at the event versus how many people there are going to be at the event. If 25 versus 125, the insurance rate would probably be less. But I still think to protect the town, we should require insurance and that we be included as an also insured on that policy. Now, I know, for instance, Rotary International has a blanket insurance liability policy for us. So when we, Rotary, do an event, all we have to do is pull up that policy, write the event in there, and it's good. So if you have other, things like Rotary, which is a nonprofit, but they may have a national service that they already have this liability in place, and it doesn't cost anything to get it. But then there's other places, I'm sure there are places that will sell this. They can Google it and find places that will sell them an insurance policy for any kind of event. Now, I understand meetings, that would be different, and I agree with Councilman Charles that the meeting and an event are different, but I do think we need to define both of those. And a meeting is defined as ABCD, and an event is defined as ABCD, because otherwise you're going to get this about no, but it's a meeting, but no, but it's an event, and I really think we have to define those two things. And of course, activity at the park, softball game or whatever, I think that's kind of self-explanatory, but I think meeting versus event really needs to be, it needs to be defined.
I want to add to what she's saying, because, Rachel, I think these are important points on even going back to our current insurance policy, and if we're in the business of renting out space, and call it whether it's nominal or making money, what impact on our current policy does that have? Because now, rather than a government center conducting business, we're an event center. So that gets to be, is there any risk with us renting our properties out, is kind of one question for our current policies. And then second, if there isn't, is there an option, just on what you said, that the birthday party people or whatever can then, here's our policy, they can do something to become a rider on it that doesn't negatively impact us in any way. That was what I was thinking you were just kind of alluding to, that, yeah, they can go get their own, or through our PRM, they can do something.
Yeah, the town insurance would never include another person on the town insurance.
Okay.
So it's only going to cover the town 100%. So that the individual, the group say, well, we want our own policy to cover this event because they're not going to allow us to have the event if we don't have it. But like I was saying, in certain instances, they won't cover them, so they're going to have to probably come back and say, well, we're just doing this, and they said he won't cover us. So what happens in those situations? A denial of coverage, or how does that work?
Yeah, but
I
and
think-
that does get back to what, though, we were just saying is, okay, if you can check in with some of the local Highland County entities, call it Bishop Park for that, or whoever's renting space, because I would imagine that, one, depending on the event, they're requiring insurance, but two, if they don't, then it's got to be covered fine under the PRM, because they've got the PRM insurance also.
I was going to say, can I interrupt?
Yes, please.
Page 42 in your packet is going to be page 5 of the Highlands County rental. their schedule of fees and amounts, and there's a rental in there. And on page 5, the last item is 18 that says proof of liability insurance. Proof of insurance is required for every event. Insurance may be obtained by contacting a local insurance agency or through the Highlands County Board of County Commissioners Risk Management Coordinator with the phone number, and the county does not receive a commission from policies obtained.
And does our current insurance policy cover us when we host events like this?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, it does.
Thank you. Excuse me.
So is this including, this is everything for Highlands County? I'm going back to
Yes, ma'am. So,
page 40 where it says Highland County Building Rental Use Rules.
yes, that, it's all of Highlands County. And part of the reason why we put this in here is because when I came on and Eva first started talking to me about this project, she was very excited, very passionate about it because she's been working on it. But she had said that she would like to suggest that we adopt something like this. So then it's explanatory for us. It doesn't. We don't have to go through this process then. Then every year at the beginning of budget, we'll sit down and we'll look at things and then you can make the adjustments. But this is our goal. And so we were using this a little bit of our guide. And since we adopt a lot of the county's rules, regulations, we figured it was best to pull from them anyways. So thank you, Eva.
Agree.
So that is in here, and that'll hopefully help to give you some framework as you're muddling this over before next month.
I think that's going to reduce a lot of requests.
Probably will.
No more free rentals, right? No, it might be free, but here's what you have to provide, so it's cost prohibitive for the organization.
Are you thinking homeowners associations as well?
I think whatever we make is consistent for insurance is consistent.
I agree.
So the fees was where I was saying homeowners and nonprofits and that was the fees. But, again, it gets back to the fees, deposits, and insurance. Those are kind of the
Right.
three things
Right.
that need to be covered somehow. Now, insurance, totally support that.
So, for instance, in, Lake
Don't
June-
like it, but support it.
Yeah, but in Lake June Point, for instance, do they have, or you have a
Nope.
insurance policy that would cover that?
So we have an insurance policy, but it's for within our gates, within our grounds. It's not,
Can you
That
get
it's
a
all-
rider on that, I wonder?
we wouldn't. We'll find another
would
place
get
to
a
have our
different-
meetings. Yeah.
Event insurance is really
Very-
inexpensive.
It is very inexpensive. It's not real expensive.
So event-
And it's really
I'll
not.
tell you, I called the lady who coordinates Placid Lakes Community Center to ask her, because where we're struggling now is where we have our 3 times a year board meetings. We only need a space for 12 people, right? So I called them, and basically, and it's a special district, so she said that if you're a homeowner, it's no cost, but you have to provide insurance. And she said it's typically up to $300. So to me,
Yeah, but that's on the high end, yeah.
well, that's what she was saying the feedback from other people was.
Yeah.
I'd just take everybody to dinner.
No,
Go to dinner and
we'll go to
talk.
Beef O'Brady's.
There you go. Go to dinner and talk.
My
So-
daughter is an insurance agent. I'll call her and get some information.
Ask her
see-
how much a 3-hour,
See if they have event insurance and what
can
their
get it
rates would be for
online.
different scenarios.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll do that.
We good to keep going? Okay. I don't want to interrupt. We're having good dialogue. And then, of course, it goes on with more examples of what's being charged. But some of the things that we really wanted to hone in on some is, so this is the police department reoccurring event costs. The Caladium Festival, it breaks down how many officers, the hours, the amount for that, the total cost. When you're looking at these, I would encourage you to take and look at the cost for the police department and then also look at the cost for the public works for the event, for each event, because for just the Caladium Festival, you see here for the police department, it's $7,260. And then you go over here and you see what we're also, for the Caladium Festival, $2,856. And this is not to pick on the Caladium Festival, because I think what the chamber does for us and the town is phenomenal. So I'm just putting it out there to make sure you have facts. But you can see that then you're adding those two amounts in addition to all of the work that Eva's putting into it as well. We gave you some of those reservation amounts, and so by the time you look at it, we're over $10,000, sometimes more.
So each of these events, though, requires a request to town council. And I don't recall if in the past we've listed these other costs except for the police costs, right? Because the Allen's costs were eye-opening to me with the,
Right.
you know, the facilities, right? The restrooms, the garbage cleanup and things like that. So I don't know that we've ever put into perspective, what is the total cost of a event, these recurrent events? And then we need to make sure that when those are submitted and we have a better breakdown of what the costs, and then when we have the waived or not. Because you get in, so is everyone you've listed here, are these all waived? Including,
They're all waived, correct?
The-
Except for,
Typically, these are all waived. Yeah, typically, these are all waived. And we come back. And I think the purpose was to bring it to your attention
Awareness.
what the costs were.
really to bring
No,
it
I
in.
agree.
Because these events have been waived for many, many years, I think the thought process is to adopt something that says, these are the events that are.
Like
that
a
you
standing
just
events.
determine that are going to be waived going forward. And, you know, how you do that, I don't know, but, or do you want them to, because historically, all these events come and they get waived.
Can we grandfather them in at no fee? Or do we want to listen to them every year and decide
That's the question.
on a year-to-year basis? Yeah, I'm just
That's
asking the
the
question. Yeah.
What you-
Staff
what you guys-
recommendation was for you to look at this, and if it's been happening, to adopt it. It's good customer
Right,
service
right.
as well, because everyone who's doing this are doing it every year, over and over again. It's the same process. And that was some of the confusion when I came on board, and then the chamber is like, why are you requesting these things? We've never been asked this before. And I'm just, well, because I'm following the rules. I'm trying to do it by the rules. And then they were just used to just coming in really quick, getting it signed.
So, taking this a step further, please don't throw things at me, but there's this thing coming up from the Merchants Association, the Placid Nights. And they're going to close the street, and that's going to create garbage, and et cetera, et cetera. And they're wanting to do it every Thursday, every third Thursday or whatever, but once a month.
Yeah.
So these other things are annual events. This thing coming up is once a month. If we authorize this at no charge, that's going to cost us a fortune.
And I think currently, Ken Anderson has said they're not going to do the road closures yet unless it starts becoming a larger event. So right now,
They're going to pilot it.
it's within the private, but eventually it could be. So the determination how to move forward with different events that come up.
Yeah, but I've been working with them, and the road closure's off the table now. Hartzell even did this a few years ago where he would do it in his parking lot. And basically and I'm not sure if they're going to use the other parking lot, but the road will not be closed. But I told them they needed, and they did. They had Mark come over, just, even if you're not closing a road, we're going to have more people in town. The police department needs just to get a heads up what's going on for public safety. So they did that, though.
The flyer says Placid Nights on Interlake, East Interlake Boulevard, Lake Placid.
it's somewhere else, there's a flyer that says in Hartzell's parking lot.
I got this today.
Yeah,
no,
there's a couple flyers posted.
It
Yeah,
may
hold
be
on a minute. I got to get it a little
unintentionally
bigger. I can't read
misleading.
it. Just a minute.
No, that doesn't say, that just says West Inner Lake. There's another flyer that I saw on Facebook that said Hartzell's parking lot.
Okay. I gave up Facebook for Lent, so I haven't seen that. I'm behaving.
It gets sent to me.
I don't care.
I-
I'm still behaving.
I just have a question on these.
On which one?
Of the list of the,
The
we're
events?
talking about grandfathered in, aren't some of these fundraisers?
Correct?
Like the 5Ks, right? Those are all fundraisers?
Yes.
And I just want to
And
point out.
fundraisers, they make money. So technically, we're donating to that fundraising cost by waiving all fees. That gets to be tricky. I mean, I think one concern about grandfathering in traditional fundraisers is then how do you start telling no to the next 5K that wants to come in, or a bicycle rodeo or something that comes in? How do you say, well, you're already doing it for them, not for us? So to me, fundraisers are a little different than the fireworks, the Caladium, the arts, you know, the 4th of July, the parade. Those are town, in a sense, sponsored events that maybe somebody else is doing. And the same thing with even Sarah with the Halloween. It's like a great event to give back to the kids and that. But when it's a fundraiser, I think we should talk about that a little different, because that means we are contributing to the nonprofit.
I agree, and it- yeah.
I understand and I agree with your point. However, the Smoke 5K, he's one of the founders of the town, okay? That, to me, that's, in my mind, I'm always going to vote that gets no fees. Green Dragon is our high school. That gets no fees. That's how I'm going to vote it, okay? Pancake 5K, I'm not sure what that is, okay?
I don't know what it is.
I'm just not sure about
But
that.
it's a good example, right?
But
So-
smoke, yeah, exactly. I might not vote for Pancake, but I would always vote for Smoke. Like I said, the Smoke family have been some of the founding fathers of this town, and I would never sit up here and vote for them to pay fees, ever. So,
And I think this Smoke 5K is a combo with their fun day too, right? Because that's the other nice thing that they do, is a family fun day at the end of the 5K. So
Yeah, it
saying
says
it's a
fun day, but
5K is maybe misleading, because maybe they're fundraising, they put all back into the family day, the family fun day.
well, they put it all back into the community anyway, in some way, whether it's that particular day or not. I'm sure that they raise more money than the fun day event, pardon me, the fun day events are going to cost.
Yeah, I
But-
can't say for sure, but I think some of it might go to Habitat.
Or
I think there are a lot
various-
of things that they contribute that to.
What is the Pancake 5K?
I don't know what that is.
Who does that?
I think that's a not-for-profit. I want to say it's the e-learning center, but I'm not 100%.
I think
I
it's,
think it is.
E-learning
yeah.
center.
it's
The what
it's
learning
down
center?
from me. I think it's the Christian school that was down there that did that. They rent from the college.
They had that, wasn't it like
E-learning.
something,
I
a
think it's
learning
the e-learning center.
consortium? or
Whatever
something
that's
like that
called down
it,
Yeah,
there.
it was recent.
Oh, yeah, it's a recent event. It's not
But, I mean, I would have them just every year like they are now. Just bring it in, we approve it, we discuss it. If a new one comes in, we'll take a look at it, we'll discuss it. But then that way, we're transparent. We've got the costs, so people know what the costs are that we're incurring as a town that are being waived.
Are you saying, though, that the Caladium Festival, the Christmas Parade, the July fireworks, the Arts and Crafts Festival or Fair, they come in every year?
They come in as a consent order today, yes.
They do
And just continue it. Yes.
What I like about this list is what I had said. People go like, what's the town doing for us? Here it is. This is what we're doing. Here it is all itemized with how much money the town, the 2,500 people of our town are donating to events. That's what we're doing. And people don't recognize that. And I think that this is a good thing to do, so they can have it in one place and they can see it all, what we approve.
I don't know, I guess I just want to make sure, as sure as I ever can, and that's very little, but that those events, the Caladium Festival, Arts and Crafts, Christmas Parade, July 4th, and whatever else I didn't say, those are going to always be okay, regardless of who's sitting in these chairs, because we can't count on who's sitting in these chairs in the future and how they may vote in the future. And I think that these are events that make our town, and this is what we do for the citizens of our town. And I think we need to put this in an ordinance or resolution or whatever we're going to come up with, saying that these events are not subject to fees, period. And that way, we don't have to worry who got elected and who's sitting in these seats, because we know that these events, because they benefit our town, they benefit the residents of our town that they're in, regardless of who's sitting here.
Can I make a comment to that? Just because we're having the conversations too, the same, maybe a little different, but you're the decision makers, but we're having some of the same conversations. And when Eva and I were talking about this, and now my mind just went like this. Oh, they're standing items. Darn it, I just lost my train of thought.
Well, you can put it on a consent agenda, but we all know that we have the opportunity to pull things from a consent agenda. If it's in a resolution, it's a whole lot harder to change.
Right. And now it came back to me, is because we don't have necessarily the town a visitor center. The chamber is our visitor center, and that's what they're here for. That's part of their purview and their partnership with us. So when we were having the conversations, we said they basically work as our town activities and events that we have going on. So that was one of the comments that we had as far, and they do the Caladium Festival. We're the Caladium capital. So those would be any, like you said, that are given for us, just so you know some of the conversation we've had.
And I don't think that the chamber or the JCs that do the fireworks, et cetera, that they should be concerned every year, or I'll say worried with quotes, every year that, geez, what are we going to do if the council doesn't approve us? Because they don't know maybe who the council is comprised of at this point. So I don't think we should give them any worry, that those events should be a given.
And for the July 4th fireworks, I have organized firework events, and they go for a minimum of $30,000 and up. I mean, that's a low end because of what fireworks cost and everything else.
Yep.
So them doing that for us and being able to keep our people, our residents here is a big deal.
And I think with for the fireworks too, I think in the budget, we also set aside for
Yeah.
the JCs for the fireworks.
For some, yeah.
Minimal, like what,
Yeah, 5,000, I think it was.
1,500 or
Yeah,
no,
it's
it's
not
not. I wish
nowhere
they
near
wish it
that.
was
Yeah, it's very,
Just to say that we still, we
minimal.
do give,
a little bit to that.
and that's,
I wanted to make a comment just because we're talking with the staff about it, and Alan had pointed out that for his items that he listed out here, this does not, the cost breakdown does not, for each event, is just a rough estimate. It does not factor in pre-event site preparations. It doesn't factor in post-event inspection and cleanup. Doesn't factor in any of the fuel costs. Doesn't any of the park rental fees or special requests, any of those things that come through. Those costs are not included, so you're still just not, you're not getting a full picture of what the fee would be. So I just wanted to make that comment.
well, some of it is cost of doing business too.
Correct,
So-
yes, ma'am. So that's what I have right now. In your proposal here for the facility rental and other fees, we can go through these individually if you would like. Some of the things that you're going to see is that for planning, some of the services that we could charge for Dana's services for planning, we've incorporated that on here. You'll also see in the county's packet, there are those fees are there, and what they charge, how they handle that, that's also incorporated. We can recoup some of our amounts that way.
and those would be the
What
ones
does that
we
have to do with, help me understand, what does Dana's position have to do with this?
Oh, because we charge for the planning services, for any of the planning fees,
Planning?
yes, for new development,
permits?
permits, everything like that.
Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Those fees are in our ordinance.
Right.
So the presentation would be that eventually, so you guys adopt the fees for the recreation and the parks, but some of our fees are embedded in our ordinances. And what Charlotte's proposing, we're proposing is to extract those fees out of ordinance and make one like the county has, one fee schedule that's done by resolution, that you can adopt the resolution yearly and review those fees. Right now, in order to do that, some of those fees are in ordinance. And to do that, you have to completely redo an ordinance first reading, second reading, and all of that. The reason we're excluding utilities and sanitation is because there's different advertising for those that are required for rate changes. So that's state statute. But the other fees can be incorporated, one resolution, one adoption process, so you have more flexibility as a council to look at it at budget time and evaluate where you are. So that.
And sanitation, right? So it's,
We have to keep sanitation separate.
no, that's what I'm saying, and it's, right, water, wastewater, and sanitation have to
stay
be
in the
kept
or-
separate, right, because of rate
They'll stay
studies
in
and
the
that, right?
ordinance, yes. But
right.
the rest, all the other fees
Yep.
that kind of are embedded, we're proposing to do one ordinance that's going to extract them all at one time and state by resolution. And then that way you'll have the ability to just change them by resolution.
So the schedule that you have on business fees, trying to find that page real quick, that it would be helpful to me, well, what's the current? Because it says what the proposed is. So is there a way that you can lay down, are all of them going up? Are they carryover or what? So it's
Right
that,
now, the business tax receipts, is that what you're asking?
there's a schedule in here that says business licenses, business
Oh, okay,
fees.
so Rachel's gonna, okay, you're taking that
Yeah.
one.
Oh, come in, did I jump ahead?
No, you're okay. I was gonna make a few comments to these and then let Rachel take that part.
Before you do, I'm going to have to scoot out of here.
Okay.
So I'm going to turn it over to Deborah and let you finish out the last half hour or so. Okay?
Is your mic working?
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. In the handouts that I put, I just wanted to point out, there's one for CNC plumbing. When you look at this, I didn't highlight it, but you'll see that the kitchen, and then there's also the kitchen, the water heater, and the kitchen is outlined just so you can see what that amount is. And then there is another one that says supply and install one new Titan N64 tankless water heater. There's those two, so it's item number 2 and item number 4 on the CNC plumbing. That would be for the community room. These are amounts because when we discussed it before, you wanted us to bring back amounts for you to actually see. So I just wanted to point that out. Then the next item in that packet are it requires 2 AC units, and so we received, it's a 10-ton, and it's actually a 3.5-ton. I think in my introduction it said 4 tons, so there's a correction there as well, so that you can see if we had to replace either of the units for the community room, that's how much it would be. Then you also have the proposal for Griffin's carpet, if we had to replace carpet, and it gave different options for you to look at. Granite versus Formica countertops. And then we just wanted to be able to provide you with the recreation user fees that had been collected at Lake June Park whenever you're looking at the Lake June Park fees. And I'm going to pass this one to you now, Miss Rachel.
So right now, every business tax, regardless of what type of business that you have or
Closer into the
Closer.
mic.
regardless of what kind of business you have or what type of business that you operating, it's all $35. So I did look around at other agencies, and they're charging by whatever business that you're doing, what your operation is. So they charging by that. So it's sort of like it's just fair to do what everybody else is doing.
So is that, when you said you checked around, that's Sebring, Avon Park, or outside of Highlands County?
Outside, everywhere.
What does Sebring and Avon Park do? Did you,
Sebring and Avon Park, I
and
think
administratively, what's that going to do to you? If all of a sudden, because I looked at that and I'm like, what the heck?
it'd
It's like
be
you're
the
going to have to
same
figure out what
operations.
business, you're going to charge them a different amount. So is that going to be more administrative work for you than some flat fee? Maybe 35 is too low, right? How long has it been 35?
Well, in ADG, you can put what service based on the rate, and so it'll be the same billing. It won't be any different billing than what it normally is. So So the only thing will change is the rate by whatever operation that the business has. So it won't be any difference.
The process it takes is still the same.
It'll be the same.
What page is that in the packet? Do you know offhand? I remember looking at that and like,
It says page 128.
Page 128 is the last page.
128?
Page what? 128 is the last page.
yeah.
Oh,
So it's
mine.
it starts earlier.
It starts at
120,
119.
119, just right after
120.
that. 119 is the lead end.
Oh, that's engine 120.
So it's alphabetically, depending on what type of business you have, is the,
Yeah, I don't have all of the documentation
so
in
if you
here.
have a golf course, it's $75, Councilwoman Hayes, but if you have a roller skating rink, it's only $55.
It's always more expensive. And I don't roller skate. I need liability insurance.
Yep.
I can tell you, some of the other businesses, it's not in this packet, but some of the business tax, like, say for instance, like you have mom and pop on Interlake, they pay $35. Publix pay $35. All of them pay the same price. And so when you call Publix and you ask, like, Tina can tell you about what they said about with Publix, like, that's all, I've cut that check today, because I looked on there, Publix, some municipalities charge Publix $4,500 for a business tax. So, I mean, to them, it sounds like an error on our end.
So here's an example that is going to cause negative feedback, right? Because again, $35 across the board for everybody today. But now all of a sudden HVAC, which would be Miller Air Conditioning, right, goes up to $110. So how do you explain to them a 300% increase? I think that's where it's like, I don't disagree, we may not be charging enough, but to go from something minimal to a 300% seems to be a little extreme. So whether it's a couple years you have to get to the level that you want, or you increase the 35 to 50 across the board or something, I don't have the perfect answer, but looking at this schedule on some of our current businesses that pay 35, and now we're going to tell them you're going to double it or triple it, is hard to explain.
What does the fee cover? How do you come up with a number like this?
On page 20,
It's that cover sheet.
Yeah, I see.
No, flip back.
on page 119, it kind of covers what the businesses actually receive for the business tax receipts.
No, it's actually big on your piece of paper here. I got it right there.
Yeah, I got it.
Because with the business tax, it kind of goes into a lot of things. Even the business tax, it goes into planning. It goes into a lot of parts of the agency, even to the utility billing, because you can do commercial versus residential. Residential shouldn't be paying the same as a commercial business for business tax receipt. But currently they are. So it's not fair to the residential that they paying the same.
I think it's more administratively, what does it cover, right? And it's just the cost of doing business, we get it. It's just a fee you have to pay every year. But for us administratively, it's nothing additional. Actually, it's the job of collecting it, but to your
So-
question, so it's not like we've got these, I mean, do we? We don't have any additional expenses to monitor businesses except to build them and collect it.
So right now, it won't create any additional work. When you said administrative, it won't create any additional work, but it's not really even creating a salary for the person who actually doing this. So it kind of helps out paying that salary of that person, and making sure that some of the money can go back into the businesses to help them. So there's other services, just like the police department. The police department go by every business they pick 10 random, and they go and they check the business, making sure that nobody is peeking in the windows, everything is good, and they put a business card in that door to let them know that, hey, we came by, everything is good. And so when you walk to your business, you see a card in your door, you know somebody been by there that night. And even the hospital, they go to the hospital and make sure everything is calm here. So that's another service that the business get, just for paying their business tax receipt.
Devil's advocate over here. We're getting away from putting the card in the door because a thief looks at the card in the door and they say, oh, they already been by, they're not coming back. So it's done sometimes electronically or sent an email or something to that effect, but the agencies across the state are getting away from putting a card in the door or a thing on the door because they know they've already been there, so they know that they're good for the night.
You know, I've always been against the business tax, and I see the county's going to do it. I'm just like a losing whatever. But, you know, I'm going to get charged now 75, and financial institutions are going to stay at 35. I would think a bank would be more trouble than my little real estate office. I'm just saying. I never have seen the rhyme or reason for that, of any of these fees, and how you just pick out, like a gun dealer, he's 75, and I'm a real estate. It kind of lets you know the mindset of people, just to make a joke about it.
I can't understand the rationale between some are 35, some are 55, some are 110. What is the rationale?
So for the 35, it's pretty much like your mom and pops, right? So you have the local business that you know that the money is not only, you know, made in the area, it stays in the area. And then the higher you go up to like the corporate, like Publix or what have you, so they're get to be a little higher to pay for coming in and you're getting business, but you're not really keeping the money in the area. But the prices is not set in stone, so it's one of those things that, you know, that's why it's here. It's put out there for you guys to kind of make recommendations. So I'm here to hear anything you want, so even if you say, I don't want it, I want it to go away,
I just
so I'll hear
surrender.
that too.
I just surrender totally. I give up.
But again, do you recall the last time, I mean, how long has it been 35?
Forever.
Okay, so that right there warrants an increase. I'm not supportive of this range by entity, et cetera. And again, it's kind of hard for me to say the air conditioning company was 35 and now you're 110. That's kind of hard to explain. Why is that when the dentist is 55, right? So each of these gets to be a comparative that.
Yeah, and as far as like, okay, comparing two similar, hardware store is 55 and a florist is 35. They're both local. They're both small. Wait, why? It's only a $20 difference, but why?
I had some more, the more documentation to put in here, just showing you what everybody else is doing, but it's not in this packet. So.
I'm just a mom. I'm not even mom and pop.
So Rachel, could we, would you get that information together
Yes.
and share it with them so that they can be able to
Yes.
have all of that to make a good decision?
Or can you streamline it so there are only 2, 3, 4
Amounts?
categories?
Okay.
Rather,
What if we just added all of them? What if we added all of the different ones and just divided it or came up with the same amount for everybody? I mean, we could take the total of all of these and saying, well, this is what other people think is, you know, what they need to collect, and then take these total fees and then come up with a figure the same for everybody. Because, I mean, Publix is paying 110, I'm paying 75. I don't know, they're not a mom and pop,
Right.
by the
okay.
way. So, but I'm just saying, maybe, I don't know, will you all agree with that?
So
Like, as
another
long
flat
as we're
fee?
getting more money to
So
pay,
keep it a flat
because
fee?
we do not cover the expenses for the business tax at all. So that would give us if we're gonna do this, cover more of the expenses, but still not try to do this.
just condense everything.
I think make it simple. $50, $60, whatever. Again, I keep looking at some of these, the pesticide company has just doubled. It's going to be hard for us to explain to all of our local business people why we approved, how do we justify such an increase? And that's where I'm struggling. How do we justify a 100, a 200, a 300% increase? And I would also be interested in what is Sebring and Avon Park, right? Specifically, those are kind of our benchmarking cities.
And I have that, and
Yeah.
they're different all across the board.
So is nobody just a one fee?
No.
Yeah, so we've had the one fee. We've probably spoiled ourselves. Clearly, we need to address it. I don't know that we need 150, business entity descriptions to do that. It would make it easy on you guys, too.
Do we issue a paper license that they post in their business, or
Yes.
how
Right there.
we do that? And does anybody come along and check those licenses?
I do every time I get my nails done.
Who check? You would. Who checks those licenses?
Code enforcement is supposed to be checking, or the police department go by, then they check, make sure that if that's a new business, that they need to be operating with the proper permits to do so.
Okay. But if it's a new business, how do we know they've paid every year?
Every year they get billed. They get automatic billed.
And so every year they get
If
a
they
new
active.
sticker?
I'm sorry?
Every year they get a new sticker?
Yes.
And who checks the new sticker? You would have a list to see who didn't pay up?
We kind of check the activity in-house, so if you know you got an active water account and this person never moved, they never transferred service, and they're still active in your system, then you send out the invoice, and they pay the invoice in it. So they kind of, and then you're going to get some that you don't hear from or what have you, then you check on them, and then you realize that, oh, they went out of business, what have you, they moved, they left the state or what have you, then you're inactive.
And who checks on those? You do?
No,
You do?
Tina does.
Okay.
It's part of the accounts receivable.
Here's a thought. How about, nobody's here. How about the fire department checking this when they do their annual fire inspection? That just becomes a checklist on their fire inspection. And if they find one that's not current, then they report it to the town. And we don't have to do it.
Is that part of their checklist
Yeah.
today?
We can make it part of,
No,
no,
but
it's
it's
not.
not part of it today?
No.
Do they do an annual inspection of every business?
They do an annual inspection of every business, I'm pretty sure.
The fire department does not, the fire police
It's not
don't
with the
come and
town,
check
though.
the
We're not
businesses. They
affiliated.
don't, and to be open, that would be a can of worms in the historic
Yeah.
district.
What
I'm
are
just-
you saying, Deborah? What are you saying?
I'm saying, were you saying that the fire people come by and check every year? No, they do not. And before, when we had something going on, the historic districts is a unique area, but if you want to do that, then I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, you're
they go-
opening. We do not have fire inspections. I mean,
No.
I
You may
probably
not.
would think that the restaurants do, certain businesses would have to, probably Publix, and some of the bigger stores have to be checked.
Like I said, you may not, but a lot of businesses do. And like, you may not because you're a real estate office. Attorneys' offices don't have it. I'm not sure about dental facilities, but other retail facilities all have to have a fire inspection. And because we were going to hook up some things from the sheriff's office onto those fire inspections. But that's maybe a possibility. We could at least get the amount down. But how many, I'm just curious, how many people are operating in our town right now, even at $35, that haven't paid that fee? How many, real estate agents, maybe they're operating out of their home or whatever, they would still have to pay that fee. We do go rap on the door and see if the thing is posted? No, we don't do that.
So we do have code enforcement, so she will kind of get code enforcement involved in it, and they will kind of like, hey, you need to do whatever. But the last couple of months, we've been kind of without a code enforcement, so, but that's coming back into play through the police department, so.
That's another one of
And
those
that was going to be
nebulous
my
things.
comment, because on the bottom of this, I call it a license, right? the business tax does say signed by Lake Placid Code Enforcement. And I mean, I think what the process is and what it should be is you send out the invoice, they don't pay through your accounts receivable follow-up, then it's a quick past due. If they don't pay, then you just basically tell code enforcement, here's the list, go
Yeah.
find them. I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of how the
what you
simple
do every year
process
anyway.
should work.
That, to
Yeah.
me, that would make sense as well. But I'm just wanting to be sure that that does indeed happen, because I can just see a lot of things that are listed on here that would very easily fall through the cracks.
Yeah.
At $35 or $110, either way, they're going to fall through the cracks if we don't have something like she just said, after the second or third billing, that it goes to code enforcement, they follow up, they go rap on the door and say, let me see your sticker.
Because the revenue from business taxes maybe like $16,000 a year, so it really doesn't pay a full salary. So it's one of those things that kind of fall in duties with a person that have other duties to do as well. But between the account receivable and code enforcement and just staying on top of the new business, and it also include with billing too, because billing kind of triggers some of that stuff as far as like, hey, you got a new account, do they have a business tax? Especially with a grand opening in a newspaper and you say, we don't even have this business. So it sort of kind of triggers as far as code enforcement to look into.
And let me, if you
So
don't-
where, I was going to say, so where are we in our thinking of 35 is not enough, clearly?
No.
So just so we can kind of facilitate what we may think, because this is a workshop, what is the right level, so that when we come back to the town council, we don't spend hours hashing this over again. I mean, you said 15,000 a year is what the revenue is, so even if you doubled it, right, you're into 30.
Right.
I mean,
But still
35 that has not changed forever is clearly low.
So I would say we could go to 55 across the board for now and let people understand that it would be reevaluated in another year and see if it should be reevaluated based on the type of business. So, for instance, you brought up golf course versus roller rink. Well, if you're going to do a security check of a golf course, you've got a long perimeter, depending on, the style of the course. It's going to take a lot longer to look at that facility on a security check than it is to go buy a roller rink. So, those type of things might be considered in the future, but for right now, just the fact that we're looking at it, I think when we get into session, I would be supportive of a $55. I mean, we can't do any motions here or anything, but that's kind of where my head is at.
I'm with you too. I think that's the first start, is it hasn't changed forever. Here's the fee after valuation, and in 2 years, we're going to continue to look at it compared to what other cities are doing.
yeah, and one thing we haven't really brought all the detail for the business tax. Our responsibility to make these people are licensed. Like, I'm supposed to be licensed, I'm supposed to renew my license. It's very hard, you have to go to SunBiz, you have to make sure my corporation is active. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of detail, if you're gonna do it right.
Yeah.
And even then, it's hard, because like, my license could expire during the year, and if I didn't renew it, but it's hard to keep track of that. So now I think what we're doing is every year, instead of just getting them in and billing them, checking to make sure on SunBiz that they've paid their corporate fees and that they're active instead of inactive. It's a lot of work.
You're absolutely right, Deborah. Every year they check the business and making sure that if you got to go on SunBiz, if it's active or inactive, to make sure that it is legit, right? So we was thinking about every year to also include a new application with the invoice, so that if something changed or what have you, then it's up to the business to disclose that. If nothing changed, you don't have to submit another application, but at least they'll get an application to make those changes, so that we wouldn't have to fine them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Do you charge late fees if they don't pay on time?
yes.
Okay, good. Is that high enough?
And then I think it can go up to $250 to magistrate if you don't pay it. So, and it never went to magistrate, maybe once. I think only one person ever did that. But it can go up to $250 if it's not paid.
Look, because I think the 50 to 55 is a hot number. I can't get it to pull up for some reason in here, but I'm almost positive that that's exactly what Bowling Green charges. And Bowling Green is much smaller than Lake Placid.
50 or 55?
55, I'm pretty sure it's either 50 or 55.
Well, and also on this benchmarking list, the low end is 55. The high end's 110, twice that. This, again, it's unfortunate we're at 35, so you can't just jump right to 110, but yet you can jump to the 55 with, in a couple of years, we're going to reevaluate it and continue to look at all of our fees.
And I think that's probably some of the verbiage we start having, is that we're reevaluating all of our fees. There's not been things that have been changed in years. I mean, I don't know, but, and so it keeps it coming back. You know, something that I was just thinking about is, you know how we evaluate the utility rates, and then they will come and say, maybe break it out, and this is what we gauge it to be able to bring it up. Just something to put out there, that may be something that we could look at down the road with, okay, well, we've evaluated it, we're gonna start this year with this plan, but now moving forward, so then we set the stage for any of the other fees that Rachel may come forward with as we continue to build. So just a thought that we could maybe do that, and then it'll take all of this out over the next few years where we maybe don't have to come back and look at it so much with this portion. Just an idea. And I told the mayor that I would make sure we were out of here by 7, so he had said to make sure I gave a 30-minute notice at 6:30, so it's 6:33. What questions do y'all have? That's the main thing, is we want to make sure that, I mean, I know we've given you a whole lot to look at, but if you have any questions, that's the main thing, is we want to make sure we can answer the questions. Eva will come back the day of our council meeting, where this will be, be on the agenda in April, unless you decide that you want us to hold it in another month. The only problem with that is that we have reservations, and the more we're talking about this, the more they're putting it in, because now they're locked in with their date. So then we've got to have that conversation. What does that mean? Because Eva has been telling them that it's subject to change, that there may be fees.
I did originally say that, and then after, I guess the last discussion we had, I stopped saying that and charging them based on not-for-profits, that 0 to 50 deal. So I've been charging not-for-profit 0, and trying to get at least deposits from the not-for-profits. But to get some guidance between now and the April meeting on what type of fees for the parks and for that, and for the, I know we talked about separating out, Councilwoman Charles said separating out events versus
Meetings.
does that count for not-for-profits too? If it's an event for a not-for-profit, I think in our recommended schedule, we showed $50 for not-for-profits as a fee for renting the room, or so we gave you some not-profits and then an in-town, out-town rate. Are you comfortable with that? Are the ranges okay? I guess to get some guidance, because if Charlotte's going to bring it back to y'all for council in April, we'd have to get some guidance on what type of fees are you looking at this point, so we can bring it back.
Well, if you've done all the investigation and compared what other people are charging and use that to put in here, I'm good.
I do too. I think that, I know Charlotte's been helping, but Eva really did a lot of research on this. And she knows she loves the town, but she also understands we're tiny. So I think I would trust Eva with the rates myself.
Yeah. And I think, can we make it very simple, that a meeting is defined as a group of people that come together with like no additional setup? How is the room usually configured? Just in rounds with tables?
So what we have been doing, because we are limited staff, you have Jose, so when this first came about, and Danny's no longer with us, but when he was here and we first started the building, we were accommodating, we were setting up, we were breaking down. We did not have the time, one person, to be able to do that as we got busier. Even now, even if you're going to charge to have the room set up, we're still not staffed up enough to to have that on a regular basis. These are big groups, that some of them that come in.
Yeah, yeah.
That come in. So we, just going forward, we just said, you know, like I worked at the Economic Development Commission, anytime we had an event that we put on, and we went to different venues, one was in Sun and Lakes, we set up, we broke down, we
Yeah.
cleaned up. So we came, that's how it's been moving forward to this point. Whoever leaves, cleans up, leave it the way you left when, you know, when you
Yes.
set up, and the
Yes.
next group came in, they set it up the way they wanted to set it up.
Okay, so we would say then that a meeting is a group of people that come in, set the facility up to their specifications, and leave it the way they found it. And if they need a microphone, it's X amount of dollars. If they need audiovisual, it's X amount of dollars. If they need the kitchen, it's X amount of dollars.
It's an event.
In addition.
Now, is that for meetings?
Now, that might be a point.
Yeah.
If they use a kitchen, if they need the kitchen, it becomes an event.
Yeah, it's not a meeting.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
That's where
Now,
the,
but what if they bring in donuts, okay?
they just put them on a table.
And they put it on a table, that's no big deal, or is that an
No,
event?
I don't think
That's okay,
that's a meeting.
yeah,
That's a
okay, that's still a meeting. But if it's kitchen,
If they're catering,
if it's kitchen,
catering
it's
in.
event.
yeah.
If it's catered, it's event?
Yeah, if they're
decorating, it's
catering
event.
in food or
Food in the kitchen.
any of, I would say, that's what I
Catered.
would think.
Food
Decorations.
other than cookies, you know, other than something small. Yeah, food versus refreshments, yeah, there can be refreshments here.
You had said something about 100 and some people for a meeting? Seriously? Those are government though, isn't it? Those are organizations that will use the facility?
So we have, you know, we're just gonna say one group that comes in on a monthly basis, and great group, but they decorate, it's their monthly, consider their monthly meeting, but they decorate, they have food, and it
That's an
is-
event. They may call it a meeting, that's an event if they're
So
decorating
yes.
and catering and,
So
And
they
there's
can
a-
call it what they want, but what we're gonna call it is an event.
yeah.
So we're gonna try
So-
to define,
So
Yeah.
if we define an event as someone that uses the kitchen or has catered food or beverage,
Decorations.
has, I'm getting there, has microphone, AV, decorations. A meeting, microphone, AV, again, extra charges, but, and they can have refreshments. Refreshments are cookies or donuts and some light beverage. But an event includes kitchen, catered food, decorations, and again, microphone, AV. And everyone is responsible for their own setup and their own tear down. And maybe we can come up with a standard tear down. What does the room look like when everybody goes into it? Because I know when we were there with our Rotary banquet, we were attempting to put it back the way we found it, and we weren't sure how they found it, because different people took it down and put it up, so.
and that's why we tell people, you know, you set it up the way you want, and when you leave, and then the next group sets it up the way they want.
Yeah, but then you're putting what someone else did on the next person. I would rather say, okay, the standard set for the room is that all the rounds are leaned up against the wall, and all the tables are stacked up in the corner, whatever that may be. So when you use the room, you take it, you put down what you want. When you're done with the room, you stack the rounds up by the wall, and you stack up the chairs. And once you have done that, then you are deemed to have left the room the way you found it. And anything that we come with after that, then we charge them back based on their deposit or based on what they owe, whether did we have to get staff in for a full day and completely clean the carpet, or was it good and they get their full deposit back? Am I on the right track?
So you want us to bring back verbiage that will define between the two?
Yes.
Yes,
I would
ma'am.
like, don't you think we need to do that?
I found one while we were sitting
don't you
here,
think?
so that's why I'm like, I think it's good, but we'll bring back some.
Do we charge cleaning for events? I mean, I would put a cleaning fee on there and have,
Because they're responsible to clean when they
I-
leave. No, but, I mean, this is the, just
We
been
still have to
practice.
clean, is what you're
we
saying.
still have to
We
clean.
still clean, but if they leave, we had one wedding, that wedding was done here, they left it a disaster, we kept their deposit. We have
But
other
in
groups
addition to
come
that,
in
I
and
mean,
do a great job.
Yeah.
They come in, they clean up, they vacuum, because we've supplied a vacuum back there. So
We vacuumed.
we have groups that do a great job of cleaning up after their, but yes, there's still upkeep. Jose, every couple of months, goes in with the carpet cleaner and does a full-fledged carpet cleaning, and he does the floor washing. So yes, there's all cleanup, but most of the groups do a pretty good job, and we've kept deposits when they have not.
Right.
We had one group come in, we told them specifically, you do not put holes in the walls, you do not put push pins into the walls. They thought if they put it in the same holes that were there before, it was okay. And so we kept the deposit. So we try to keep that room as pristine for the citizens and
Right.
keep it up, and make sure that people don't, but overall, people mostly are respectful. We've had a couple
I know we vacuumed, the vacuum was there, and we used it, we vacuumed and made sure
Yeah.
that everything was done correctly, but,
Yes.
I think part of like this general cleaning is part of doing, cost of doing business. I understand that, but then there is a line,
So, Eva, on this chart, and I agree, I appreciate all the work you've done, so, any of these comments are just trying to be helpful, not be critical. My concern would be when the nonprofits are paying a lot less than a town resident who pays property taxes. So I would think that those, to me, it was those would be combined, a non-resident.
So originally, when this first came before you, they were combined. And the last meeting, then there seemed to be I don't know, at that meeting, we weren't happy about the not-profits being within that resident not-profit column. So we decided to go ahead and split them out, maybe give them a lower rate. So, I mean, I originally had them in the same column as charging the not-profits the same cost as an in-town resident.
yeah.
And so that was the original column.
Well, we know what's going to happen is any club that has one in-town resident is going to register for that club. And I don't think
We don't
there's
want
anything
that.
we can do about that.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
just-
those are gonna be instances that happens, overall.
But that's okay, that still gives that town resident an opportunity to do something good for his or her
Yeah.
club, so that's good.
We can
I-
very easily combine that and say, I mean, if you're good with taking out the and combining that town resident not-for-profit column, and do we want, so $150? I mean, we're still well below the surrounding area when we say 150 and the out-of-town being 200. We're still well under what the surrounding areas are doing. And do we want to determine meeting? Is that a different price? Because I think if you're saying the community room, we could say the $150 for in-town resident is for an event. The event includes the kitchen and includes everything. If it's a meeting, it does not include the kitchen, maybe set a different price for that.
And none of them include microphone or AV.
Right.
That's
so
always extra.
There was a breakout at one point. I know one of the clubs, originally when Phil set up, we have one club that's paying AV equipment, not paying for the room. That's why I said the consistency is,
Yeah.
so it's $25 was set for AV equipment.
Well, right, if they use our microphone and our AV equipment, there is a fee. And depending on what they use, what the fee is, then we just to make up a chart for that. But if we charge that fee and they decide not to do it, not to use it, but they want to bring in their own microphone, that's fine, let them do that. They want to bring their own screen and their own little projector, then fine, you can do that. But if you use ours, if it pulls down from the screen, and there's some places, because I'm in Florida Crime Prevention, we're all over the state. Let me tell you, if you roll that screen down in error, you're charged.
Yes.
Bingo,
Yes.
So that's, I mean, if you want to bring your own stuff in, that's fine, but,
So we could include that as a separate charge.
Yep.
For that.
yep, separate charge.
And so
Yep.
just determining whether you want to combine the not-profit and in-town residents, and separate fee for the $25 maybe. We'll set up something so you can look at in the April meeting.
Yeah,
And
I
do we want
just,
to have a different fee
Yeah.
for just a meeting? So was this the event fee, or is this the event fee and we do another charge if it's just a meeting? Because a meeting could have 100 people with no food, you know,
I still
so are we
still
gonna
think
charge?
I still think a meeting, even if it's 100 people, can be a smaller charge.
Okay, yes.
And whatever the consistent charge is for meeting, if it's 30 or if it's 100, they just have more chairs to put back. But that's their problem, you know.
So would the $50 range be, I'm trying to gauge.
For a meeting?
For just a meeting.
For a meeting, I would think $50 for
Yeah,
a meeting would
yeah.
be good.
it's kind of consistent. The Ag Center up there is saying 40,
Yeah.
kind of for
So
theirs.
$50, where it now says not-for-profits, we change that for meetings, and then in-town rates for the community room and all the other ones, and also for not-for-profits.
So I understand if we're looking at Community Room Government Center, current fee's $50, current deposit's $150. We're saying we're going to do 50 for not-for-profit and town residents.
So,
The
So-
same, I mean, I would like to see the same for those two
you
organizations.
want to charge $50?
Well, that's when I'm reading your chart here.
So the chart says, should be.
$50
are we on the
for
right page?
not-
Can you
for
get to our
profit.
council? Get to
And
the
it says
community
100 for residents. We're going to make that 50.
room. Oh, it's the other way.
Right there, that one.
Oh, there it is.
Right there.
Yep.
So right now I have
Third line.
not-for-profits, $50.
Now,
Yep.
I can see
I
it.
know.
And I have in-town rate, out-of-town rate for regular events.
I'd leave the out-of-town rate the way it is, but I'd take the town resident and make it at that not-for-profit organization rate.
In the
So you
same
wanna
column
make
even.
in-town rate 50 and not-for-profit $50.
Yes.
Yes.
Your in-town terminology means town resident on this
Yes,
chart, right?
Yes, when I say in-town, that means.
Yes.
That means a
That's
town
fine.
resident.
Yeah, it's
So
almost
we
like
would-
those two columns get combined together.
Yeah,
That's, yes,
yeah. And it's
And
all,
do we want,
all
Yes.
$50
No,
or
it doesn't-
$25 or whatever it says.
do we want to make that $50 for resident and not-for-profit?
Well,
For an
Yes.
event?
right, what I'd like to say is that's what I would support, because we can't really say what we're gonna do here, but that's what I would
We're
support.
just getting consensus. I'm trying
Yeah.
to figure.
no,
For-
I would also, that's what the Ag Center's charging, $40, looking at some of the others.
Now, that's for,
So you said for the event,
To-
because I think what Eva's trying to clarify is we've got the event, but now if we have a
So there's an event
Oh,
and there's a meeting.
see, so we
I'm
gotta
thinking
have-
meeting. My
Yeah.
head,
So
I'm thinking,
meeting
yeah.
for not-for-profit.
Yes,
would be
yes.
Okay, just for a meeting for an in-town resident and not-for-profit, we're saying $50.
Yes,
I support that.
For an event, we're saying $150 for an in-town resident and $200 for an out-of-town, for an
Yeah.
event.
yeah, I think that would be something I could support.
Okay.
Yeah, so the event fees would be pretty much what is in the proposed fees for town resident right now.
So town resident,
That would be
for
an event fee.
and then out-of-town event fee, and then the column that says not-for-profit right now, that would be for meetings for not-for-profit and residents.
Right.
I just
Yeah.
gotta relabel them.
Now, you still need one more,
AD.
still need one, no, you still need one more column, because what you have, you do not have proposed meeting fees for non-residents.
So I thought, that's one clarification, because I thought the proposed meeting fees would be that combination $50 would be for in-town. So out-of-town, we don't have, I gotcha. We
You
need that.
don't have an out-of-town,
Yes, because.
a
I gotcha.
non-resident meeting column,
Gotcha.
okay? So we have to make a non-resident meeting column, and I don't know what that number should be, but I'm sure you folks will come up with a number.
Okay.
But yeah, we need that.
And would you agree that we keep it consistent with everyone else, that they don't charge other government entities to use that room for meetings only?
I would not charge other government agencies for meetings, but I would charge them for events. I would not charge them for meetings.
if we go up there for a meeting?
No.
Okay.
And some of those government, like, we host and allow the elections. We allow, the elections office, the elections, we hold the early voting here, we don't charge them, we partner with the homestead exemption, they take the room for a couple of days so people can come in the local area, so those HRTPO has their,
CFRPC holds
Yeah.
a lot of their meetings here.
We have 9 minutes.
And as we discussed earlier, take a look at your best guess without being too extreme, because we've got to present. But in 2 years, we can come back and we should look at this also. So it's one of those that, let's not go from 50 to 200 without trying to explain how we even did that versus, 50 to 150. But in a couple of years, we'll be looking at all of this again as we get more experience.
and as we move forward to get to that one fee schedule and get all that extracted out of ordinances in one thing, then that can be something yearly,
Yeah.
part of our budget that you can look at.
Eva really, I was like, this is ingenious when she found it and was showing me, this is a great idea with the resolution.
To extract it.
Together and make it
So we can, instead of going into each individual and redoing each individual ordinance.
absolutely.
I found where we can do one ordinance, extract from all those different codes and bring it all in one.
And when would it be appropriate, to go over the ordinance? Because some of the wording needs to be,
The ordinance, we'll take a look at that. That ordinance, I think, has been around. I know that the user fees for $20, that's for the ball fields. So that hasn't, not that I'm not even touching that, but that hasn't been changed, I think, since the inception, so.
yeah, because,
That was when you're looking at the park fees, it has not been changed since its inception.
and I'm not looking at the fees, but, well, for example, it says the play fields. Now, does that mean the ball fields? Does that mean the soccer field?
Yeah.
And there's something in here about anybody uses the park. Well, if what a bunch of kids come down and they want to play on the soccer field, I've heard that they were kicked out in the past.
And the other question is, if somebody comes and they just on the weekend use the big pavilion.
Just like
They
a
just,
family
yep,
group
a
just
family,
come
right?
take
Yep,
up
they use the
versus-
big pavilion.
So,
Now, unless somebody's already reserved it, right, that's fine. So
Yes.
the benefit of reserving it, it's yours, whether
yours.
somebody just came in and
Correct.
used it.
correct.
And the same thing, if family got together and wanted to do a scrub baseball game, went out on the field, it's fine, that's what it's there for.
Yeah, and
But
then-
if the ball people have it reserved, that's the
Then
issue,
they get it.
yeah.
That's kind of how it's been,
Yeah.
it works.
Yeah, and there's some grammatical typos and whatever, and there's no mention of pickleball court usage.
Oh, yeah, we have.
Yeah, it definitely
Yeah.
needs some,
And
it needs
fees.
some updating.
Yes.
So it's been
Let's
around.
build them first.
And then they
I-
will come.
I just want to clarify that we're going to have now, in this, on this chart that's on the screen now, we're going to have 4 columns. We're going to have not-for-profit and town resident meeting. We're going to have not-for-profit and town resident event. We're going to have for-profit and non-resident meeting. And then for-profit and non-resident event. And on the side, in addition, those are just the fees. Then the add-ons are microphone and AV and kitchen. And those would be the same whether you are having a meeting or an event.
Okay.
If you choose to have those items, then that's what it costs. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Or, just for display, rather than it go across the top, then it's your coming down, the government center event, government center meeting. So
Just
then,
split it out.
yeah, you bring it down in the rows versus across the top.
However you do
Yeah,
it.
that's what I'm saying.
However
But
you
it
do it.
clearly, right, needs to be so that people know, look
Yeah.
we're looking at this as 2
Yep.
different events for different pricing.
Right. Yep.
Okay, ladies, we're almost to 7 o'clock. Anything else any comments?
I'm good, thank you.
Have fun in Japan.
Yes, enjoy your Japan trip. Have a great time.
I'll see you at the next meeting.
All right.
Obrigado.
Okay, well, it's not quite 7. Are we done? Okay, I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 6:56 PM.
Way to go. Adjourn, thank you.